name's moved. All right, Lydia, it's all you.
All right, we're live.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our Tuesday, June the 30th City Council agenda. I now call this meeting to order. We will now at this time have the pledge and an invocation, should he desire, by Councilman Anthony Byrd.
Me again.
That is you, sir.
I gotta get Lydia a flag.
Yes.
All right.
You got my flag up?
Working on it. I'm working on it. I'll make it work this time.
Right.
Here we go.
You ready?
Yes.
I pledge
Pledge
allegiance
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands, one
nation,
nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I move the agenda, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir. We have no special presentations for tonight. Can I get approval of the minutes?
I moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Madam Clerk, let's do a roll call.
Councilwoman Burrs,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Coonrod,
Yes.
Councilman Gilbert,
He's not with us.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilman Oglesby,
You're muted, sir.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses.
Okay. Motion is approved. Let's move into our order of business for the City Council this evening under ordinances final reading. Madam Clerk, 5A, please.
An ordinance to amend ordinance number 13473 hereinafter, also known as the fiscal year 2019 through 2020 operations budget, providing revenue for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2019 and ending June 30, 2020, appropriating same to the payment of expenses of the municipal government, fixing the rate of taxation on all taxable property in the city, and the times taxes and privileges are due, how they shall be paid, when they shall become delinquent, providing for interest and penalty on delinquent taxes and privileges, amending Chattanooga City Code Part 2, Chapter 2, Section 267, relative to paid leave for active duty training, and to amend Chattanooga City Code Part 2, Chapter 31, Sections 3136, 3137, 3141, and 3143, Sections 31322, and 31354.
All right, Councilwoman Burrs, followed by Councilman Oglesby.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Do I have any questions or comments? If not, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilman Oglesby,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Councilman Gilbert,
Yes.
Councilwoman Coonrod,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilman Burrs, sorry, Byrd,
Yes.
and Councilwoman Byrd, you said yes. Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson,
Yes.
that's 9 yeses.
Motion to approve carries 9-0. We have no ordinances on first reading this evening, so we'll move into resolutions. Madam Clerk, 7A, please.
A resolution authorizing the interim treasurer to execute a contract with e-government solutions for the implementation and maintenance of a citywide municipal property tax billing and collection software system for 3 years beginning July 1, 2020, plus 2 one-year extensions for an amount not to exceed $63,800.
I have Councilwoman Burrs, followed again by Councilman Oglesby.
Move to table, Mr. Chair.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to table this item with a proper second. Any questions, comments? If not, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Burrs,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Coonrod,
Yes.
Councilman Gilbert,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilman Oglesby,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson,
Yes.
9 yeses.
Okay, resolution or the motion to table carries 9-0. Now let's move into human resources. 7B, please.
A resolution authorizing the Human Resources Department to apply for and, if awarded, to accept the FY 2021 state and local government financial wellness grants program for a one-year non-renewable initiative to begin on September 14, 2020 through September 30, 2021 for up to $100,000.
Okay, Councilman Gilbert, followed by Councilwoman Burrs.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. Any questions or comments? All right. Councilman Gilbert, is that your hand just still remaining?
Yes, the old hand.
Oh, okay. All right, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilman Oglesby,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Councilman Gilbert,
Yes.
Councilwoman Coonrod,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Burrs,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson.
Yes,
That's 9 yeses.
motion to approve carries 9-0. Okay, Madam Clerk, if there is no objection from the council, I would like for you to read items 7C, D, and E together, and we'll vote on those as a package.
Yes. Item C, a resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to award contract number W2011201 JDH Company, Inc. of Chattanooga, Tennessee, replacement roofing system for multiple buildings at MBWWTP in the amount of $311,848, plus a contingency amount of $32,000 for an amount not to exceed $343,848. Item D, a resolution authorizing the approval of change order number 1 for Tri-State Roofing Contractors LLC of Chattanooga, Tennessee, relative to contract number M180020201, the replacement roofing system for the Bessie Smith Center for an increased amount of $96,294.50 for a revised contract amount of $395,839.30, plus a contingency amount of $30,000 for an amount not to exceed $425,839.30. Item E, a resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to award contract number E200100201 to Jacobs Engineering Group, Inc., Disaster Recovery Management Services contract for year 1 of a 4-year term blanket contract for a contract amount of $261,214.
All right, we have Councilman Mitchell, followed by Councilwoman Burrs.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion to approve with a proper second. Do we have any questions or comments? If not, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Burrs,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Coonrod,
Yes.
Councilman Gilbert,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilman Oglesby,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses.
Okay, motion to approve items C, D, and E is approved 9-0. Now, Miss Lydia, if you would bring Mr. Sammons in while the council is pulling up our purchases for this evening.
Yes, sir.
Council, if you'll pull up your purchase items, and as soon as Mr. Sammons gets here, we will have him go over them. Good evening, Mr. Sammons.
Good evening. Good evening, members of council.
Go ahead.
Good evening.
We have a few new purchases for your approval this evening. Starting with the first 3 from the Citywide Service Division of Public Works. The first item being front-end loader and refuse pickup services, being awarded to Waste Services of Tennessee, LLC, for an estimated annual cost of $125,000. Next, chainsaw parts and supplies, being awarded to 2 vendors. The first, Roll-Aid Industrial Supply, and second, Chattanooga Tractor and Equipment, for an estimated annual cost of $35,000. Next, hand tools for local pickup, being awarded to Roll-Aid Industrial Supply for an estimated annual cost of $45,000. From the Fleet Management Division of Public Works, We have Elgin Street Sweeper and Vector Sewer Cleaner OEM Parts and Service being awarded to Samson Equipment Company for an estimate annual cost of $85,000. And the last item, from the Traffic Operations Division of the Department of Transportation, Stalker DSR 2X Radar System Package being awarded to Apply Concepts Incorporated for an estimated annual cost of $32,450. And that concludes the new purchases for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Sammons. Councilman Gilbert.
Yes, Chair. Can we separate PO 548113 from the other purchasing?
If you want to make a motion, and if we get a second, we'll vote on it. Do you want to make a motion to separate it out?
Yes, I want to make a motion to separate it out.
Do I have a second to Councilman Gilbert's motion? I'm going to ask one more time. Do I have a second to Councilman Gilbert's motion to separate out the first item? Councilman Gilbert, I'm hearing no second. The motion
Yes, sir.
fails for lack of a second.
Yes, sir. Before we vote on this, can I ask Justin to come up, sir?
Absolutely. Miss Lydia, bring in Justin Holland, please.
Yes, sir. And should I leave Mr. Sammons or not?
Go ahead, leave Mr. Sammons for right now.
Thank you.
Mr. Holland,
Good afternoon, council.
good afternoon. Councilman Gilbert has a question.
Justin, did you find any information that I asked earlier?
Yes, sir. So in regards to the questions that you had earlier, and I'll try to make sure that I captured all of those. One of the questions was what was the previous owner of Waste Disposal Services? It was City Disposal. That company is now owned by a parent company of Sandtech. Was that one?
Okay.
That was one, I believe, one of your questions, sir.
Yes, sir.
And another question that you had was in relation to whether or not we required new containers for that contract. Was that one of your questions, sir?
Yes, sir.
That is correct. So at the implementation of the contract 2 years ago, we did request in those specifications that the contractor install new containers for a couple of reasons. That we had previously had a contractor that had installed poorly aesthetic containers in the past. So we felt like it was beneficial for the city to ensure that we got good service if we had a 3-year contract with that service provider. The third question was in relation to a $50,000 reduction in cost if we had containers in new condition that were required. And I cannot confirm that. It does not seem that would have saved us $50,000, but I can't confirm or deny that would. Those are, I think, individual business models that would be affected by the specifications for a specific business. I'm not sure that I can either confirm or deny that would be accurate.
Well,
Not knowing their.
I do know that
Sorry.
the other bidder that bidded on that contract did come in front of council, and he did present to council that he could have saved $50,000 by painting and putting out the existing dumpsters. He also brought to our attention that the dumpster that's supposed to be new was not new, and he brought pictures to us to show us that they was not new. What the contract actually said is supposed to be new. So I just want to bring that to everybody's attention before we vote. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And I would mention that we haven't had any, there have not been any problems with this service provider in the past. So I can't confirm that there were problems with the service providers you indicated.
Appreciate it.
Yes,
Are
sir.
there any other questions for Mr. Holland before we let him go? I'm seeing no other hands. Miss Lydia, if you would excuse Mr. Holland.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, council.
Thank you, sir. Council, we have these purchase items before you at this time. What is your pleasure?
I'd like to move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve these purchase items with a proper second. Questions or comments before we vote? If not, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilman Oglesby,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Councilman Gilbert,
No.
Councilwoman Coonrod,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Byrd,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses.
Motion to approve purchases carries 8-1. Now we move on to other business. Is there any other business that needs to come before the council at this time? Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you. Just two things. One, I want to share a bit of positiveness because we don't often get to highlight the great things that Troy Rogers or Uncle Joe are doing with our kids. But a young man that attended Brainerd High School, Eric Moses, he lost both of his parents in 2011 due to gun violence, and the person is still on the loose, but happened over on Batter Heights. But this young man, he had got involved with the wrong people, involved in gang activity and different things. He was failing in school and so on and so forth. He met Uncle Joe, turned his whole life around, and he got abducted to the Honor Society. He graduated from Brainerd this past weekend, and he got a full ride to Tuskegee University. So these are the great things that Uncle Joe and Troy are doing with our young men. They're making sure that they're not falling through the cracks. And I just wanted to share that piece of information. They're doing amazing things. And it's countless other stories like that we don't have the opportunity to hear about because we always concentrate on the bad and the negative that's happening within our cities.
Amen.
So I just, anybody, any family members that's, having a hard time reaching their kids, if they can get them connected with Uncle Joe. Also, any adults that need help, they need to get connected to Troy, because these are the programs that are within our city that we pay for and we fund, and a lot of constituents aren't aware of it, or they say they're not aware of it, but we just need to highlight them more. I don't know if we need to have them come speak to council, the people that they're working with, maybe they can highlight the great things that they're doing within the program so people can know about it. The services are there for them to take advantage of. And this young man, Eric Moses, he's, that's just another person that we've helped, not to be a statistic. But also, I just wanted to share is that a political lesson that I'm learning is that during this pandemic, it really saddens me that we as city council members and even the mayor, like we don't have the power to truly represent our constituents when it comes to the public health and safety of this coronavirus. Like our numbers are increasing, people are dying, kids are dying. We seeing it all in the headlines. And for our mayor to have to beg darn near to ask permission to legislate for us to mandate for people to wear masks in public. To me, that's a slap in the face. And as city council people, we can't, it just doesn't make sense. It's a hard lesson that I'm learning. We're just in this position where we're waiting on the county to make decisions because they've let it be known that they're in control right now, and we have a health department that's refused to even say anything about it. But we're sitting around and every minute somebody is getting ill from this pandemic. Like, I don't know if we as a council, we need to, reach out to the governor to say, hey, this is something we support or we don't support. But I believe a measure need to be put in place. But until then, if that happens or not, I don't know how my peers, they feel about the situation. But I'm just asking our city, hey, if you got to go somewhere, make sure you put on a mask. If you're in your grocery stores, put on a mask. You're just going out, put on a mask because we care about your safety. And I most definitely don't want to lose anyone else, even myself. Like, I have to remind myself to put on the mask because this stuff is getting serious. I don't want to have to, go out just making a run that I think that'll be quick to the store and come back and bring it to my family members. And I wouldn't want any of you to experience that at all. So I just ask my constituents to make sure that you're adhering to the CDC guidelines, doing all that you can to make sure that you're using precautions. And then lastly, I just want to remind the citizens that are on here listening, is that once we talked about a lot in that public safety meeting, but what I asked to happen is that if we could have a meeting and to take a look to see what we can do that's outside of the box. Our protesters across the nation have talked about, using our first responders as an approach to public health when it comes to with the public safety. Oregon has put in measure to do a program called Cahoots that maybe we can look at. Eugene, Oregon has put in a civilian responders committee where they're all taking a look at using first responders, working with our police department and making sure that we're sending out the right resource to the call. And I think that we're to that point where we need to take a look at that. We already have a lot of programs in place where we're looking at what others are doing. When we're talking about the homeless, we've got things in place that address that. When we talking about mental illnesses, we have something in place that can address that. So maybe it's just a matter of us bringing it all together and utilizing our resources outside of just the police department, going to respond to a call like this crisis. What we're in now is we can't just keep dancing around it. We have to start addressing these important issues. And I really hope that our council is gonna continue to ask the hard questions, that we'll continue to push legislation to change the policies and laws that are in place, because we just have to address it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for bringing that bit of good news to us about the young gentleman that's got the scholarship.
Absolutely.
Councilman Gilbert.
Yeah, I want to echo that same thing, Chair. Thanking Councilwoman Coonrod for bringing that to us. We always hear negative but never positive, and that's exactly a positive thing that's happening. I appreciate her bringing it to our attention. Also, I appreciate her bringing to our attention that this virus is serious. Our mayor was basically begging for us to mandate masks. I don't think people know how serious this is. I work in a hospital. I know it's serious, and I know how that people feel like they can handle it, but when they actually get it, they think twice. That we need to start wearing masks everywhere we go. If you don't want, you're not just taking your rights away, but it's just saying that I believe I want to protect my fellow person that's next to me. Put the mask on. It's like seatbelt. Seatbelts mandated. We gotta have seatbelts on, we get a $50 fine. Well, what's wrong with doing the mask the same way? Because that's protecting the public, protecting each other from each other. For we don't know who has the virus, and it protects us all. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Byrd.
Hey, thank you, Chair. I want to first just definitely give a shout out to SIMPA and my friend Ladarius Price over there. They're one of the first companies that I've heard of that allowed Juneteenth to be a paid holiday and let their people get off of work. So I just want to thank them for that. Everyone was able to get off work and celebrate that holiday. So just thank you to SIMPA, Ladarius Price, and that whole team over there for doing that. I want to definitely thank this body for bringing that legislation and saying yes. Councilwoman Coonrod, thank you. And I just think it was an awesome situation. And me, myself, never thought COVID was as serious because I didn't know anyone. But now I know several people who have been affected and who are going through these issues. So I have to admit, I do take it a lot more serious than I did. Not saying that I played it down, but just by me not knowing anyone, it kind of didn't hit home like it's hitting now. And I know friends and people who have it and are going through the pain and the struggle. So I just ask everyone to stay safe, wear your mask, and look out for your neighbors and try to help some people, because there's people out here that need help, and just check on your friends and family. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else with some other business? If not, let me just share to the council, and many of you may know that the health department has released possible COVID-19 exposures at the Central High School and Hickson High School graduations this past Saturday, June the 27th. So any one of you, or if you know anyone that attended those graduations, encourage them to get tested. just to make sure that there is no exposure. All right, we move on to committee reports. I'm going to just start with the order that I see them. Vice Chair Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Prior to reports, let me ask this really quick. Did you have an appointment you wanted to make under other business?
Well, we did that. We did that during Public Safety Committee.
Yeah, but Phil, do we not need that in the record at 6 o'clock?
I believe it'd be good to have on the record at 6 o'clock. Both are
Okay.
advertised as public meetings, but I believe it would be good to have on your normal matter of other business right now.
Okay, well, if that's the case, thank you, sir. I would like to nominate Dee Visser to the Police Advisory Review Committee to be placed on the agenda for next week. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, so thank you, sir. Today we did have a legislative committee meeting. We discussed 3 pieces of legislation in that committee today. There was an equality ordinance that will be placed on the 14th agenda. We also discussed a voting requirements legislation that will also be on the 14th agenda. And then we've got a piece of legislation for next week that we're going to be seeing. Councilwoman Coonrod, do you want to explain what that one is for next week? I know you're very passionate about getting it on. I want to make sure you have an opportunity to talk about it if you'd like.
Yes, absolutely. It's just a resolution declaring racism as a public health crisis in the city of Chattanooga.
All right, very well. Thank you. We had a long conversation about that as well. And thank you very much for bringing that forward. No further report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We will have a Public Works and Transportation Committee meeting next week after agenda session.
Very well. Councilman Byrd.
Thank you, Chair. We had a Public Safety Committee meeting today discussing the Community Oversight Board, and we look to see this piece of legislation on our agenda in 2 weeks on 7/14/20. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Planning and Zoning will meet next week, July 7th. We will have a historic River to Ridge presentation update. I want everybody to know that will be, we'll have a public hearing on July 14th at 6 p.m. and then we will be scheduled to vote on that. Our first vote, July 28th. I want to make sure those dates are on the record and in plenty of time to give public notice.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Burrs.
No reports, sir.
Councilman Oglesby.
No report, Mr. Chair.
Councilwoman Coonrod.
Chair, Jason, he responded back and he said that we could do the committee meeting on the 14th. Is that okay with you?
Let's see. I think that should be fine. Yeah, but Councilman Mitchell, we'll have a Public Works and Transportation next week, the 7th and the 21st again.
That's correct.
Okay, the 14th would be great. Madam Clerk, would you make a note that we'll have YFD committee on the 14th of July?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman Coonrod. Anything else?
Yes, I do have a question that's under YFD. Is that since the governor ruled that there will be no fall sports, now, and in our budget, we gave funding to organizations for sports. Are we able to amend those things and place it in other areas?
Why don't we talk about that in our YFD committee on the 14th?
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Councilman Gilbert.
No report.
No report. Thank you, sir. Okay, now we come to the time in our agenda where we recognize persons wishing to address the council. Vice Chair, it's my understanding that we have about 8 people that have registered. Is that correct, sir?
That is correct, sir.
So what I'm going to do is just ask if you are registered to speak and you would like to speak at this time, if you would raise your hand, and then I'll have the Vice Chair verify that you have registered, and then we'll have Mr. Attorney, would you go ahead and read the rules for engaging the council?
Yes, sir. Yesterday, I think it is important to reference at this point in time, Governor Lee signed Executive Order 51, which extends the requirements of governmental entities to be able to hold meetings electronically here through August the 29th here because of the COVID epidemic here in this state. Because of that, for any public comments at this time in the session here, the chair will recognize members of the public who wish to address the council, provided that each speaker wishing to address the council has been recognized or will be recognized only after they provided identification that includes the speaker's name, address, and council district. They can have no more than 3 minutes to speak during this time because there's no special rule in effect tonight. The speaker may address the council only upon matters within the council's legislative and quasi-judicial authority and cannot address the council on matters that are not under their authority or which are regulated by other governmental entities. The speaker cannot be permitted to use any vulgar or obscene language or use the floor to personally attack or personally denigrate others. And the speaker should address the council as a whole and not make comments directed towards individual council members. So having read those rules, the first speaker should be able to speak.
Vice Chair, would you go ahead and put our clock up? And
Yes,
while
sir.
you're putting the clock up, we have 3 hands. Would you verify that each one has registered to speak?
They have, sir.
Okay, very well. Miss Lydia, would you bring Christopher Miller in, please?
Yes, sir.
Hello. Hold on 1 second. Okay, now we got the clock. Go ahead, Mr. Miller.
Yes, hello. This is Christopher Miller from 2106 Union Avenue in District 9. I would like to say towards Councilwoman Coonrod's point earlier that there are many organizations and attempts from across the nation to not only to take the calls and the voices of the protesters and turn that into a substantial policy to make their cities better places and to redefine the role of the police in the community. And I think it would be an excellent idea for the city of Chattanooga to look deeply and dive deep into these policies from across the country. I myself am familiar with the efforts in Eugene, Oregon with Cahoots, as Councilman Coonrod said, then also the city of Albuquerque, New Mexico, with their community safety department. I believe that would be an excellent use of the resources of the city, as well as the legislative ability of you. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you. Miss Lydia Martha Hunter, please.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Miss Hunter, yeah, if we can, go ahead.
Okay, wonderful.
District, please.
Thank you. I am in District 7. My address is 4910 Tennessee Avenue, apartment number 4. Oh, I didn't mean to say that. 37409. So yeah, I've been filling out forms all day with my address. So I wanted to call and just voice my support for the amendments that Chattanooga DSA proposed. In particular, I wanted to talk about the polygraphs, the reallocation of polygraphs funding to daycare. I was doing some reading on polygraphs just to kind of see what the purpose was, and a lot of the budget doesn't give much in the way of specifics, so it's hard to know how they're actually carried out. But I was reading from the American Psychological Association that there's not actually a clear benefit to administering polygraphs, and often it reflects how nervous somebody is. So I was kind of thinking about that as a reflection of the fear and anxiety that a lot of people feel, being in communities that are targeted by police. And that's just one example, of a way that we're maybe putting this money towards a system that is kind of furthering, further dismantling communities. And reallocating it towards something like daycare would have a really positive effect on these communities, would help children have opportunities. And that's just one of the amendments. I won't go over all of them because I know you have the language, but just wanted to call and voice my support of, funding community wellness as Chattanoogan's who want to see our city grow and flourish and just do better for everybody. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and yeah, wear a mask. Bye.
Thank you. Miss Lydia, I believe it's Courtney Klovic.
Yes, sir.
I apologize if I'm not saying that name correctly. You can give us your name and your district number, and that'll help.
My name is Courtney Chalovich, and I live in District 6. In the recent petition hearing against City Council, Chancellor Atherton ultimately ruled in favor of the council. But in the fourth point of his consideration to determine his judgment, whether the enforcing of an injunction on City Council would serve the public interest, I would like to note that he ruled in favor of the petition. To me, this is very telling, and it speaks to the heart of the matter of the petition, which was not the budget, but rather council's overall accountability and transparency in performance. This was not a stunt. It was a tactic in the attempt to be heard in response to the severity of the current emotional landscape of our city and what I perceive as the broken relationship between council and its constituency. I understand all too well that as council members, you have many, many prescribed administrative duties and responsibilities. As a teacher, I also have no end of duties that are mandated to me by state standards. However, at the end of the day, those standards are meaningless if my first and foremost responsibility of being a trusted and upfront guide to my students is not met. I've had roughly 1,000 students in the past 2 years alone, and it would definitely make my job easier if I could just go about my day filling my prescribed duties that exist on paper, but it also would make my students have no investment in our class or see how it applies to them. So I front load my class with time so my students can take ownership and leadership over the curriculum. By the end of the semester, are able to use the building blocks that we've established for guided self-learning. And I'm able to serve as less of a mandator of rules and more as a coach who provides them the tools and the safe space to guide their education. I also have to be prepared to pause on imposed timelines when more crucial issues that threaten their safety prevail. It creates a classroom in which we're invested together and paves the way for improvements for all of us in the future. Council has the opportunity to use this current environment to more deeply engage its constituents in policy and ultimately gain valuable citizen leaders to help in its duties, but it takes time and willingness. I personally am willing to meet with any and all council members to discuss ways to make council operations more transparent and understandable to us, and ways to more deeply engage citizens in city affairs, and by doing so, serve you and their self-interests and our city as a whole. Thank you, and I yield my time.
Vice Chair, we do have 4 additional hands. Would you verify that all 4 of these individuals have registered to speak?
Yes, sir. Each one of them.
Okay, very well. Miss Lydia, would you bring in Jeffrey Meldahall?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening. Go ahead.
My name is Jeff Meldal. I live in District 7 in St. Elmo. I wanted to say that now the 2021 budgets have passed. It clarifies things to a certain extent for those of us who've been invested in this conversation about budget priorities. A lot of credit is due to the workers in the mayor's office and the city departments who put the budget together and get it online and accessible to the public. It's been really a valuable resource, and it's been, I know, very illuminating for myself and a lot of other citizens to see just, where our money goes insofar as we can do that with the online tools. I also want to commend the unpaid citizen workers who are and who have been combing through that budget to make our proposals to y'all for specific ways to meet these overwhelming demands that we've heard loud and clear over the past month, that the citizens of Chattanooga want to move funds away from the police department and to invest more in affirmative community resources like YFD centers, Head Start, affordable housing, as Martha mentioned earlier. I believe you now have with each of you some concrete proposals with concrete numbers proposed by community members, and I know more will be forthcoming as we get a chance to go through further budget items and consult with each other about our priorities. I want to urge you to consider these proposals thoroughly and also just to reach out to your communities for more ideas. I mean, I think everybody would agree we're not living in the same world we were living in when some of these budget items were drafted, and we can be reactive to that. We can make changes after the fact. We can make amendments, and we can rearrange our priorities. One item I particularly wanted to highlight was the initial $1 million investment of a proposed $13 million total investment in a police training center. Given very fruitful discussions we've been having as a community over the last month about the disproportionate spending and the at best mixed results from the police department, I think that freezing that project before we plunge into a $13 million commitment, given not only the discussions we've been having, but also the economic uncertainty of these times, that would be a great place to start. And I know that we've seen a lot of good ideas about where that money could be better spent. Thank you for hearing me, and I yield the 5 seconds I have remaining.
Thank you, sir. Katie Keel, Miss Lydia.
Yes, sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
Great, I'm in District 2. Thanks for letting me speak to y'all tonight. I am the co-chair of Chattanooga DSA, from which, Jeff and Martha have already spoken. As y'all all know, we sent our proposed ordinances to y'all on Monday. I know they're not up for a vote this week, but they ought to be next week, at least in the budget agenda meeting that happens in the afternoon. So for those of you that still remain skeptical as to whether, these are actually good ideas, I know some of you are, just not aligned with socialism in general and, are not really looking to work with us on this issue. But I would urge you to look at it from a taxpayer dollar accountability perspective on some of these things. For example, one of the more important ones, in our opinion, is the $370,000 that's allocated this year to quote unquote data processing in the police budget. When I emailed CPD about this, their PR spokesperson told me that it goes to their contract with Axon that's storing TASER data. I'm a computer programmer for a living, and I can tell you that $370,000 to store TASER data is probably not right and a flat out waste of taxpayer money, depending on how the contract is structured. It's very suspicious to me. I also have a lot of questions about what citizen data is being collected, what's being done with it, privacy, legal liability reasons, all kinds of red flags. So anyway, if the idea of defunding the police in order to help the community doesn't sufficiently move you, I would urge you to consider that angle because you may be able to find, a way to please your own constituents who are more conservative about these things, because generally those kind of people are interested in whether taxpayer dollars are being wasted in any avenue. The same goes for polygraphs, which have been proven to be unreliable and I think aren't even admissible in court as evidence a lot of the time. Why should citizens of Chattanooga pay $100,000 for that? There's many much better things that can be done with that sort of thing. For example, giving it to the Chattanooga area food bank, and in a pandemic where we're seeing famous pictures of miles of cars lining up at food banks, it seems like a no-brainer to throw the brakes on some of the more frivolous items in this police budget and give things to people that actually need help, including, most importantly, the Black and brown communities of Chattanooga that have long been ignored by government at all levels on a scale that white people have never experienced. But, you know, in general, our programs help all working class and poor Chattanoogans of every color, but especially the Black and brown ones. So I'll yield my 11 seconds. Thanks.
All right, Miss Lydia, I believe we have Casey Crook up next.
Yes, sir.
Hello, my
Good
name is
evening.
Casey Crook. I live in District 3. I'm calling, like so many others, to continue to call on you, the council, to speak out or amend the budget that you all passed over the past couple of weeks. I think not only just the specific amendments that have been put forth that the other speakers have mentioned, but also to moving forward, apply the same level or even a greater level of scrutiny that you do to all other city functions or all other city spending. Apply that in a greater strength to the police. Because I mean, not an hour ago, we had a discussion of whether or not to save $50,000 on dumpsters, but then pass without discussion over $3,000 a piece on radar guns that look like they belong in the 1980s. I think this whole push, this whole the reason that people are out on the streets is because it's not a fundamental. It's not just a thing where we can move some money here or move some money there. It's fundamentally we need to look, like so many of you have mentioned in previous meetings, we need to look at individual cases of where we can build community equity and build a more equitable society. As I believe it was Jeff earlier mentioned, we have budgeted $1 million to a police training center over the next year, and then 13 million over the next 5 years. I question whether in a literally unprecedented economic and public health crisis, $1 million could not be spent elsewhere in a more urgent way. Even if you agree that the police training center is important, or even if you believe that the police training center is important, it's not exactly the most urgent need when it's $1 million that could go so much further. I would also call back to comments earlier about Uncle Joe and different community organizations that do good work, and the over $500,000 that is spent towards police outreach. Why not, instead of funding $500,000 into programs that make the police look good, and convince people that the police are better than a community service, actual community help, why not fund community help outreach? If people don't know that the services are there, as so many of you have said, then how are they going to reach those? So do
Mr.
that
Cook, I
instead.
have to let you know your time is up. Thank you, sir. Caitlin Johnson.
Yes, sir. Hello, my name is Katie Johnson. I'm in District 2. I really just want to echo the sentiments of the folks that have already been speaking. I'm going to keep it simple tonight. I know all of the counselors have had the amendments that have been proposed on this budget sent to their email. I know you've all been looking them over, and I guess I just want to, again, echo what everyone else is saying in that when we think about building our community and spending our money in the most efficient way, is efficient, does it look like punishment and more police, or does it look like investment in these spaces that we've got? We've already heard talk tonight about how things like polygraphs are ineffective and not even helpful, most of the time thrown out in court, as someone else had mentioned. I know one thing that stands out to me is how much our counties or our city spends on bullets. Is that an efficient use of our money to create the kind of futures that we want? I don't think that it is. And I would implore the council to really consider what this city could look like starting with these amendments. I don't think that these are the end goal. I hope that you will take these amendments and pass them and then look further into ways that we can boost our community and make the most out of the funding we have in our city. I yield my time.
Thank you. We did have one more person registered to speak. It's my understanding. If you wanted to raise your hand at this time. If not, council, I see no other hands raised. What is the pleasure?
Move to adjourn.
So moved. We are adjourned. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.